Hello and welcome to the Core Advantage podcast. My name's Darren McInnes.
And I'm Jacob Tober.
On the podcast, we talk about all things sports science, strength and conditioning, and athletic development.
You'll find links, show notes, and references in the podcast details and also on our website. Hello, and welcome back to the final Core Advantage Random Thoughts podcast for 2019.
Hey guys, how you going?
The last one for the decade, even.
Yes. Yeah, how exciting.
Very exciting. This will be our last one for a few weeks as well.
Yep.
We're going to you're taking quite a bit of a break.
I'm taking the longest break for ever. Yeah, it's 20-year anniversary of coaching, and I'm taking 20 days off.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be great. I love my job, but it's going to be nice just to unplug.
Yeah, it's a tricky job to sometimes get leave from because athletes need to, and this ties into last week and also going to flow into this week's episode, because your athletes need to keep continuity in their training.
Yeah.
And so if you're unavailable, the gym can become unavailable, and then it's like you preach, spend all this time preaching and telling about the importance of consistency of load, and it's like, but I'm off for 20 days, so good luck to everyone else.
Best of luck. And particularly it's been for me for most of the last 13 years with the WNBL, because our finals are in Feb.
It's a summer sport.
It's a summer sport, so you need to be around. But now that I've got the much lesser role, I'm no longer essential.
So what are you going to do for 20 days? Just briefly.
So go down to visit my folks, have Christmas down in the country there, which will be really nice, and then a bit of a staycation working bee. There's approximately 300 weeks of tasks that I haven't done around the house that I'm gonna.
You need to do some husbanding.
There's just stuff I've got to do, and then we're going to go away on a camping trip, and we're upgrading to slightly more intense camping. So it'll be without running water.
Meg was a little bit impressed. Took a while to get there, but once it was fully explained.
Yeah, I don't think she was at all. Anyway, you're very kind. And what about you? What's your? You've got a bit on.
So I'm working through Christmas. So I'll work through the first week after Christmas, because we stay, even though some of our coaches are on leave, we stay open, and we've got holiday programs to finish wrapping up, and we've got training to deliver. So I'll be here from Christmas through till I think the 30th, and then from the 31st through till the 6th, I'm going on a road trip to Jervis Bay, which is halfway between Sydney and Batemans Bay, I think.
Okay,
somewhere up on the east coast.
Yeah,
it's got the second best beach on the east coast of Australia. So we Googled it and we're like, all right, we'll do it. So we're going to spend 5 or 6 days cruising up there and then moseying on back.
Driving up.
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so and we've got a couple of stops on the way, so we'll take our time with it.
Yeah.
And then come the new year, we've got ECC and we've got Country Cup for our basketball.
So you're doing Country Cup for this year?
Yeah, so off to Echuca in the...
Is it Echuca?
Albury?
I thought it was Albury.
Albury.
We will double check that.
Yeah, don't worry, BV, I'll be there. So Pat's off to ECC in Sydney, and then I'm off to Country Vic for the Country Cup.
Yeah.
Keeping the kids and the athletes warmed up and fresh and ready to go, and supporting the coaches and the physios as best we can.
Sounds like a good summer.
Be hot though.
Yeah, it's
sticky
nice
up there. Yeah.
Nice and warm. So last week we were talking about the importance of maintaining your summer training load. And you said to me, I'm going to put together a website with a few little bits on it, and I was like, that sounds cool. And then I saw it, and I was like, holy hell! It's a manifesto of excellence.
Yeah,
you went all out.
I like to make things properly.
Yeah,
do it properly.
It's really good, and so we kind of announced that a little bit this week, and we've already had a truckload of people download the resources, and it's basically this beautiful sort of compendium of everything we care about for maintaining your summer load, all on one webpage. So articles. Loading chart,
instructional videos, workouts,
how to use the app, just everything in one place, which is really cool. The only catch is that you have to sign into it, and the sign-in process we've made it as good as we can.
Yeah,
it's not quite as.
It's just name, country, email. That's all it is. Yeah, and you have to make a password because it's a membership website.
Yeah, and you do have to read the email. The problem is that in this day and age, we just want to be able to do a thing instantly without having to read anything. You do have. It's not quite that totally frictionless experience, but it's 2 minutes, and then you've got this great resource. So it's
one minute. If you're a quick typer, if you're a young, quick, snappy typer, you'll be
1
fine.
minute. Yeah, so it's not long, but it's a great resource. So I'm super psyched about that. But flowing on from that,
and the reason that we need your email for that is because we'll be updating it as we go.
Yeah.
So we want to keep a list of everyone who's downloaded, because if we change a thing or if we add a new feature to the app, we want to then go, hey, that web page with the holiday plans now has more on it. Go access the new stuff. And over the next week or so, I'll be adding a couple more things. I'll be keeping you in the loop as I add those. It's not complete yet.
Yeah, so that'll be a live thing that just evolves over time. Because one of the things that, one of the problems, and this used to happen to me quite a lot, was, say in 2009, I would have a version of Warm Up 2.0, and I'd give someone a hard copy of that, or even a PDF. And then I bump into them 6 years later, and like, I'm still doing the workout. I'm like, we've actually improved a few things.
4 things have changed, and that one we don't do anymore, and this one we've added.
So I do like this idea of being able to update it pretty smoothly.
So if you're in our email list, you'll get an email about that in the next couple of days. If you're not, though, you can just find it on our website. So there'll be the link with this episode, but also check it out on Instagram. I'll be posting a few promotional pieces with it coming up. So
sounds good. And that sort of flows into what I've been thinking a little bit about testing. So one of the things is that it's very, very common that, quite rightly, sports teams will have testing coming back from the break because they can enforce a level of accountability. So you actually do the work because you've got to have, you might have a time trial, you might have a yo-yo test or whatever.
Because if you set a yo-yo time in the off season, like the early preseason before Christmas, football, basketball, something like that, and then you go away and you come back and you've got a time trial that's now significantly poorer than when you went away, the coach's going to be like, what the hell, mate? What did you do?
You didn't put the work in. Yeah.
Whereas having that before and then that after test makes perfect sense to keep athletes on their holiday training.
And so I thought we'd talk about, we've spent a huge amount of time and energy hacking testing from a delivery standpoint this year because we've done more performance testing than we've ever done with larger cohorts.
A lot of individuals.
And we're making good progress. Like I think it's still a work in progress. I think by mid 2020 we're going to have it down to absolutely fine art. But it's still I'm pretty happy with how we've hacked it in terms of not having people stand around, getting good rotations through because testing can become a real drudge and a real time drain.
Yeah, because you have to collect the results. You have to warm the athletes up. You can't have the athletes standing around too long, but you also do need to have a certain amount of rest. So there's a delicate juggling act of getting enough rest between efforts because they're maximum effort attempts, doing things in the right order so the athletes don't, for example, do the yo-yo and then try and do a 20-meter sprint, which is not going to go well. Yeah. And then being able to do it in such a way that the event has high energy, so the athletes are motivated and they're on that right spot in the inverted U for arousal. But then also you've got to make sure your data's precise. You can't go stuffing up numbers too often, or losing data, which is a very dangerous thing.
So and it's kind of a balance between efficiency and validity, efficiency, validity, and safety. So one of the things we did with BV, we did a large amount of testing there. We're working on a few new things that are going to help make things even more efficient. But we stayed old school with pen and paper, which was a really good call. Yeah, it takes a little longer, but at that point, there's no danger of a cell being accidentally deleted.
You can't reset paper.
I remember reading one of my favourite Ben Elton books. Have you read any of Ben Elton books? Yeah, he's a really good writer. He wrote, maybe it's called Gridlock. It has environmental themes in the books, but they're very funny, very readable. One of the books, he was talking about how a security guard had a clipboard with all the names of the guest list to this party. And he just mentioned in passing, that the beauty of a clipboard is it can't be hacked. It can't
fake your way onto the list.
It's either there or it's not. So so we've done a pretty good job of that. But it's made me think also about how athletes can hack their testing. So we want athletes to do the hard work, to maintain their loading, and to put in great summer work,
so that they show up on testing day in better shape than when they left, so they're ready to go.
But also what I want is them to be able to capitalise on that fitness they've got and really display it as best they can. And some people feel like this is giving away the answers to the test. But I'm like, well, if you care enough about it to learn how to do this stuff well, why not share how to get better at a test?
Yeah, why not hack the test?
Yeah, not in a cheaty way.
Yeah, it's not getting the best out of your body. Shortcutting everything and doing a gather step on a standing jump, for example, or only doing 19 meters on your 20-meter sprint. It's about testing. There's a big learning effect. So if you do a testing day and then 2 weeks later you do the same testing day, everyone will improve at a lot of things.
All other things being equal, they'll improve.
They'll improve because they know the test, so they know where to pace themselves. They know where to go hard. They've learned how to jump a little bit about it. All those things. But if you can take that learning and then apply a few little tweaks, which we're going to discuss in a second, you can significantly improve your performance and therefore show truly what your fitness and capability is.
I think that's such an important thing. Also, I think you can enjoy testing. The reality is Athletes rarely enjoy. There's not many athletes like, I love to test. This is what I play for.
I like the 20-meter sprint test, and you see a lot of athletes that lick their lips at a speed test. Yeah.
But like the fitness stuff.
Oh, yo-yo, not so much.
No one likes that. But I think if you learn the tricks of it, it's more enjoyable because you've got a skill.
Enjoyable is a strong word.
Enjoyable. It's less unenjoyable.
On that though, let's go to an Iron Edge pro tip,
which will be enjoyable,
and then we'll come back for the enjoyable part of the unenjoyable training and testing.
Cool.
Hey everyone, it's Jacob here with an Iron Edge pro tip. Battle ropes are a great way to do your conditioning work, particularly if you've got a lower leg injury or you can't get extra running in, and it's good for that sort of general physical preparation, if you will. That doesn't mean though that you can just hammer them out with poor form. You still want to make sure you're getting a good posture, good alignment, so you can get the most benefit out of the exercise with the least risk. So take a hip width or a shoulder width stance. You want to be soft knees, sitting back into your hips when you're in your stance. And then when you're doing the ropes, make sure you're doing it from the arm. So the movement should be an arm-based thing, not a heaving, flexing, extending movement through the spine. So something along these lines. We like the alternating rapid arm variation, where it's left, right, as quick as you can. Make sure the movement's coming from your arms, core engaged, back straight, sitting down into your hips. That's really the key with your battle ropes, so you can get the most out of it with the least amount of risk.
So let's go least favorite first.
Yep.
Yeah. Yo-yo.
Yo-yo fitness test.
The first thing I think you want to think about, I think this applies to both yo-yo and to time trials.
And the beep test if you're still doing the beep test. Because the yo-yo, for those who don't know, is a fitness test which is now a more anaerobic version of the beep test. So the beep test is a continuous 20-meter back and forth. The yo-yo now incorporates a 10-second recovery at one end. So it's kind of like run, rest. Whereas the beep test is just a continuous non-stop run. So it's more specific to athletes who play a stop-start sport, basketball, footy, soccer, things like that.
Field sports.
Field and court sports.
And so I think the overarching thing is, in terms of hacking your fitness testing in general, is knowing about the central governor. Just having that sense of your body, and we've talked about this at length before. What episode would that have been? Any idea?
I don't know. Yeah. I'll link it.
Central governor?
I don't remember.
Central Gov, we'll remember that.
Yep.
Is the idea that your body modulates how hard things feel based on previous experience. So one of the things is just, if you know your previous level and you know you're able to do that, just knowing your central governor will try and tell you to stop before you should. Just, push on hard. I mean, it's amazing how often people will get a much better score if they're competing against like a sibling.
Oh, my best ever beep test. I was going to say the next words out of my mouth are going to be a central governor plus a brother riding side by side is a great way to get an all-time best. So I'd have my best ever cross country and beep test scores with Davey hot on my heels.
You're not going to lose to a sibling.
I'm the older brother. There's no way. And I played more sport and stuff. Like we both were sporty, but I was the sporty toba. And so I was like, there's no way I was losing to my brother. I was like, I went for runs, I was fit. And then, it's like...
It's a whole other level. Yeah.
You find a new level when it happens.
So that's an overarching thing around fitness. But let's talk specific hacks for the yo-yo.
Yeah. So the yo-yo. So you have a 20-meter... Usually it's not on a basketball court. You've got a 20-meter up and a 20-meter back. I think the most important thing to get right is rolling into each run because you've got that 10-second recovery space. So rolling into the beep instead of power walking your way to the recovery action, power walking back, stopping, and then starting your run. Using that to try and roll onto the beep is really crucial.
And so you'll see some people that they'll do a slow walk, they'll put their hands on their hips, and they'll come to a complete stop, and then they've got to restart. And what they don't appreciate is that the cost of restarting every time is just harder and harder on your body. So it's not that you are effectively gaming the test a little bit because you're making it less repeat, just slightly.
Less of a repeat sprint and more of a rolling start thing.
But it's more just that ability. It'll take off a lot of the difficulty out of it because you're not having that exertion of going from nothing to everything. And so just getting that rhythm of it. And we saw the people who are really good performers at it just would kind of saunter around the cones.
They'd be really slow walkers during the 10 seconds.
Because take their time, get back to it.
Because the 10-second recovery feels like it gets faster because the sprints get faster, but it actually stays exactly the same. You've got 10 meters and 10 seconds every time. So you hit that line on the beep, walk your way back slowly. And usually you've got a 3, 2, 1 countdown, depending on which version you use. But it'll give you 3, 2, 1 before you then beep again. So use that 3, 2, 1 to sort of walk your way 1 meter, 0, half a meter, 0.25 meters, and then you go on the beep.
Yeah. And then, so I think that's the biggest role in terms of hacking the yo-yo and getting a good result. It's keeping, because you're getting the benefits from the active recovery component of the walk. Like it's actually helping you to get fresh again for the next bit, and that rolling start. The next big one, I think, is having accuracy on your line, on your change of direction
up the other end
when you come back.
Yeah,
I was amazed at how many athletes, because I would often police that line, would go over by quite a bit. And I do think you want to go over a touch.
You want some safety.
Because if you go under, you're in, particularly the way we run it, we're pretty harsh on any type of shortcutting. So if you risk of a shortcut, that can get you eliminated. But there was one athlete who was going, I reckon, 40 centimeters, 30 centimeters past the line.
It's a whole extra foot every time.
Every time, yeah. Where do you think people should be in terms of the turning? Because there's different approaches. There's some people who you'll see them run up and they'll really do kind of a hard plant and cut, and some will do a couple of little steps and go. I'm not sure that there is a perfect answer to this. I think it's body by body.
Yeah, body by body, and whatever works best for you. But you only need to get 1 foot on that line, so you don't have to get your entire body to it. And you only have to, you want to time it so you get there, touch the line, beep, straight away you can move. So you don't want to don't want to come to a complete rest at that end and stop before you continue on. So you want to, short choppy steps into it, plant, beep, go again straight away. So you can kind of, again, continue moving instead of stopping and starting.
And I think part of the art of the really good performers of this kind of stuff, and I'll never forget watching Jason Smith, former captain of the Australian Boomers, doing some line drill stuff. And what I noticed about him was that he wouldn't bolt to the line. He would coast the last couple of steps. So he wasn't exerting decelerative energy getting to the line. He'd coast just a little. But just to that sweet spot where when he'd hit the line and push off, it would be mostly a plyometric reaction off the line.
He had some bounce out of his hips and ankles. Yeah.
So you weren't having that decelerative cost, and you weren't having much accelerative cost either. It's that sweet spot. And I think it's just finding, it's experimenting and being mindful of what you're doing. We were joking before about how nothing makes it tolerable because it hurts.
Still sucks, yeah.
But a really big part of tolerating discomfort is mindfulness, is actually being able to think, just focusing on the technique, focusing on the angles, and that will distract you from the discomfort quite a bit. When you're running.
Yeah, exactly. I want to unpack that even further. Before we do though, one last thing on your other end cut, do not do a circle. You see athletes, particularly towards the middle and the endo test.
I laughed while I was drinking, sorry.
Where they run up and instead of doing like a plant the foot on the line, propel themselves back, they do like a loop.
Yeah.
And those athletes are adding a meter, like we talked about adding 30 centimeters or a foot to your effort before. Those guys are adding half a meter to a meter to every single sprint.
And they're not getting that plyometric reaction, because that plyometric reaction, you may well be getting 20% of energy back for free, like a 20% refund on that step in terms of the energy you're getting back. They're missing out on, they're making it longer and harder. Yeah.
Longer and less explosive and less free elastic energy for sure. That was it for that. But yeah, let's unpack that idea of sort of hacking your central governor and being a little mindful. This also applies, so that's very specific to the yo-yo, but this also applies to your beep tests and your time trials now, that idea of being mindful while you're running.
So one of the most interesting things about pain is that the more you push pain away, the more the pain signal goes up, because it's telling you, like, the body, if you have pain and you like really try and like not feel the pain, your body will tend to amplify that to make you feel it. So not feeling the pain isn't the answer. In fact, if you're in a painful situation, just allowing that pain to come and to happen and kind of listening to it, it will actually dissipate the pain. I studied up on this a little bit, because a couple of years ago I was having to have my head zapped really painfully for my because as a young man, I did not wear hats enough, and I got some pretty serious sun damage on the top of my head. And they had this thing where you basically had to laser my head, and they said to me, just warning you, it's excruciatingly painful. It's half an hour under a burning laser on your head.
I don't understand how a laser can help stop the skin damage.
Okay, so it's pretty cool. Just quickly. So what they do, and I'm not sure.
Because I remember when you went through this, it was pretty uncomfortable.
It was.
I wasn't there. It was uncomfortable.
It was so painful. So what we do is you rub in this sort of photosensitive ointment for about a month leading up to it, and it gets particularly absorbed by your precancerous, dodgy skin cells.
Those soon-to-be melanoma, if you will.
Yeah. And then on the day, they put you under this sort of zappy thing, and it just zaps. And it's
scientific terms, yeah.
Burning hot, and it zaps you for like half an hour, and it's really, really painful. And then afterwards, your head is on fire for 48 hours. Like you just can't. I would just douse it. I was just running under cold water constantly. Like I had to sleep out the back in the cold part of the house. Like it was full on. And then it all peels off horribly. But some of the dodgy cells get killed by that process, apparently. But anyway, so I knew I was going into this, and the nurse had warned me that it was really painful. So I did a bit of reading, and I used the Headspace pain meditation app, and I listened to that.
Cool.
That during the process, and it was really interesting. So the instructions were: so I'm sitting there under this burning light, listening to the podcast, the meditation app, and the instructions were to feel the pain, to kind of inspect it and examine it and think about how does it feel, like really
go in detail,
really feel it, and it made the most amazing difference. Like it really wasn't a problem. It was a real eye opener for me, and so ever since then I've always been thinking, well, that just makes so much sense, because if you're, it's like someone's shouting, if someone's speaking loudly at you and you don't hear them, they will speak louder. Pain's going to do the same thing. So I think part of it is just allowing your body to accept. So if I'm running, if I'm training, I'll say, oh yeah, I'm feeling some pain. That's appropriate. That's fine. So I think that's quite a hack, is just being able to listen to that pain. You don't want to fixate on it, because then that will probably just get tiring over it.
That happens the opposite. Yeah. It's like, okay.
But just allow it to be
lungs
heard.
are burning. Yeah. Carry on.
This is appropriate. But then I think on top of that, if you've got that mindfulness of just focusing on like the feeling of, as you're running, focusing on the feeling of the foot striking the ground, the feeling of your turns, and it enables you to really avoid that common trap, which is that as you get, the biggest trap I think with any of the testing is as you get more and more tired, your running gets more and more ragged, and so you've actually made the running more difficult. You haven't kept it together. Yeah,
that's the big difference between, I think, those, you start with 100 athletes. The first 50 are just the ones who aren't in very good shape. Like there's that level of that, and there's the less fit ones. But then when you get to the middle to the top, I think a significant factor that separates the ones that sort of finish in the top 5% to the top 30% is sloppiness with their running in the mid to late stages.
Just running ragged. They get loose.
The best athletes stay focused, stay centered, stay light and easy, whereas those other ones that end up dropping off, you can see their shoulders are slouched, they're sloppy through their arms, they're heavy on their feet, they're really hard on their decelerations. They don't pay appropriate attention to staying tidy and clean.
They really grind their way through it. And it's like you've got to kind of grind your way through it, but with nice form to stay efficient. Because you can easily make running 30% harder by grinding your way through it. Like you can make a big difference to how difficult the running is if you're not getting that elasticity off the ground.
Well, that's a great segue to other free thing we have on our website that's just been launched in the last couple of weeks, which is just worked out nicely, which is a free running assessment tool. So on the same website that you'll find, which will also be linked,
coreadvantage.training.
coreadvantage.training, on that website, the same website where you'll find the free holiday plans, you'll also find a toolkit that teaches you and shows you how to assess your running technique and what to look for. So it shows you how to video where the right place is, how to warm up for it, what part of the running to look for, and then it takes you stage by stage through the gait cycle to show you, this is good, this is bad, how do you look compared? And then you can sort of compare your running and start looking at some hacks to fix that.
Yeah, because if you can run just that little bit better, it's one of those compounding payoffs where every time assuming you're playing a running sport, where every time you're running, it's going to be easier.
It's one of the foundational skills that make all the other skills possible.
It's a bit of a master skill. Yeah. So I think that's the yo-yo. I think we've got that pretty good. Yeah.
That applies to the beep test as well. So obviously minus the recovery part, but the turns obviously become twice as important in the beep test because there is double the turns because you're turning at both ends now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good. Okay, should we stay on cardio and talk a little bit about time trials?
Please.
Well, you tell me. What do you think is the most important thing? Say a 2K time trial, because that's more. I think 2K is more in favour these days for team sports than the 3 is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, a lot more athletes and a lot more teams are doing 2Ks.
Can I just say, I used to be really dismissive about 2K. I used to, early days when you're full of your own blinding truth of knowing everything, I was like, it's not specific. You're never running 2,000 metres in a row. And then it took me a long time to come to an appreciation of, it's not specific, but it's incredibly indicative of a bunch of important things. So if you've gained body fat, not put work in, not been lifting, not been running, you will run a crappy 2K. If you have stayed lean, if you have put in your lifting so your body stays strong, so you've got good strength reserve in your lower body, and if you've put in the work
in your conditioning,
you'll run a cracking time. And there's no testing on the day. There's no faking. There's no genetic talent about it. It's just, did you or didn't you put the work in?
Yeah, so unlike those hacks you can do for the yo-yo to get better turns and all those sort of things, the 2K is really just you on the ground. It's just you and your cadence. Can you keep it up, basically? So it's a true anaerobic power test. In the same, because a yo-yo, if you take a couple of our distance runners, for example, and made them run a yo-yo, they wouldn't do that well because of all the turning and the acceleration, deceleration. Whereas you have them in a 2K and they're like, all right, I've got a straight line, I'm just going to go. They'll smoke everyone easily because they've got fitness specifically for that.
But swing back to our team sport athletes, but I think the validity of it is higher than I used to think. So I think it's a good thing.
Particularly for your field sports like your footy and your soccer and rugby.
Super important. So in terms of how to hack that, I think the main thing is what we were talking about before is that good economy and knowing it's good economy and it's knowing what times you should be doing. It's knowing your splits.
Yeah, knowing your pace. Exactly.
Which is so much easier in the modern era.
So the first 2K you ever do is just going to be see where we're at. But once you run one, you really need to spend that first one paying attention to how it feels compared to what pace you're doing. So you set out, you got your Garmin or your Apple Watch or whatever it is with some GPS built in.
Your new thing that I'm desperate to get, the Stride. Have you seen the Stride?
I've not seen the Stride.
STRYD. It's a power meter that goes on your shoe.
Oh, no, I have seen this one.
And what that means is it's taking into account how hard you're working. So it's actually a much better measure than, because it could be a really windy day or it could be a really hilly course and that could change things. But the Stride actually enables you to, it's probably arguably, if you believe all their stuff, and it does make sense to me, it's one of the best ways of true pacing in terms of your effort levels. But anyway,
we need to do a technology episode at some point in the future.
We do, really, yeah.
Because my GPS on my Garmin has been very poor, and I want to get some feedback from other people if it's just me or it's everyone.
I think you just want like a therapy session because you're what, $700 Garmin?
Yeah, I got the good one. I got the Forerunner 935.
And I've got James's hand-me-down Forerunner 130
from back in the day. Yeah,
mine works fine.
Yeah, GPS is all over the place. I run the same park and I run like a long run and interval day, and it's just all over the shop. Anyway, I digress.
But yeah, so you want to know what your pace is. You want to know what you can do because you don't want to overcook yourself.
So your first couple of times, you really want to spend time understanding what pace you're running, how it feels, and how well you can hold that. So you go out of the gates, you're a bull out of the gates, and you go, 345 pace. This is 330 pace, whatever. This is lightning. But then you get 500 meters and think, okay, 4-minute pace. I've slowed down a bit. Yeah. Maybe I went a little too hard. So that you know what pace to do and you know what it feels like.
So I feel like what you want to do on the day is, so you've established what pace you can do by yourself. You know you can do better than that in a group. So I think on the day you want to go just a fraction past your established by yourself pace in the first K.
Yep.
And then let it all hang out and just go for it in the second K. Is that what you reckon?
Yeah, because you can't go too hard early because you'll run out of steam. So it's just a physiological truth. You can't sprint the first K and then expect to be able to sprint the second K and just get some miracle win from nowhere. So the first K you got to just hold a little bit back so that on the second K you can let it hang out, as you said.
And to be clear, holding back means running still a bit probably faster than you're running by yourself, but don't try and smash a PB.
Exactly.
Much. Yeah.
Because then trying to think how to word this. When you're running at something like that where it's a steady pace, you can't make up for a slow start and you can't maintain too fast of a start. You've got to have exactly the right start. So that first 50 to 70% of the race has to be bang on the pace you want, and it depends how much you've got in the engine for the last 50 to 70% of the race, that then you just go helpful at. So, the 1500 is a great example. The bell goes, and it's like up to there, everyone's now even. It's like who's got the legs to kick for that last episode. So it's really about the kick and keeping yourself in a good place so that the kick is effective. So I remember in uni we did some experiments where we looked at the physiology of rowing and the factors that determine rowing performance, and we did a 2K rower. I'd never been on an ergo in my life, like literally never.
You're built for that, right?
I know. I wish I went to a private school. I would have been an amazing rower. All anaerobic, can't jump, truck-like lungs. Would have been fantastic.
And being a big unit doesn't penalise you much either.
No, exactly, because you're supported by the boat, and particularly in an ergo. So the first one I had no idea what it was doing, and so I went out really hard for the first 500 and then slowed down a bunch in the middle K, and then I just was too late to pick it up in the last 500. But the next one, I'd been spending the time watching the strokes per minute and the space, and I knew exactly what I could do, and so I just did it. And then the last 500, I had plenty in the tank, and just came home with a massive 500 metres. So that's kind of what you want to do on your 2K.
Yeah, and that's also going to apply to the others as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You are one of our more intense users of high-intensity bike work,
Oh, not recently. Been running a lot more.
That's great.
Enjoying my running,
What do you think because sometimes you will have to do a little bit of a time trial on the bike as well?
Same rules, yeah. Find your pace, find your cadence, find your wattage that you can hold for that first. Probably, if you're doing, we do a 2K bike time trial in here because we don't have access to a 400 meter running track to do our time trials on. It's just about work out what pace is, sit just on it for the first K, pick it up in the next 500, and then just go nuts in the last 500.
Yeah, cool. All right, I reckon that's good for cardio. We're not advocating any time trial based stuff in the water.
No,
no,
we're not.
Please. Let's talk about something more fun. Let's talk about speed over 20.
Nice. Another one you can hack.
So I think one of the things is, again, it's preparing. The worst thing you can do is not do any high intensity running over 20 meters and suddenly expect to do really high intensity stuff. You've got to put some of that.
You got to do some speed work to get fast. Yeah. Train fast, be fast for sure.
When you're doing it though, what do you think is the most important thing?
When you're doing your training or when you're doing the test?
When you're doing the test.
The test.
Because you watched that a lot more than I did.
I videoed them all with the BV kids and with the BV athletes for sure. Starting position is really important. So making sure you start, depending on who you do it with, the height of the gates, the type of gates, things like that, that'll affect what you're allowed to do. But you want to have as much weight on the front foot so that you're not rocking back and exploding into those first few steps. So really being aggressive out of the gate for that 0 to 5 split. And then probably actually more important than that is actually doing a 20-meter sprint.
Yeah, let's come back to that. So what Jacob's talking about there, and I think this is important to understand, is the first few steps are relatively short steps where there's a lot of ground contact time and you're muscling your way through. Like you're going from no speed to get up and going. So it's really muscling it through. It's force into the ground.
You're trying to overcome inertia and build up momentum as quickly as possible. And so you do that with more contact time and shorter steps. And applying force. Yeah, and
so you muscle into the ground, and then you want to start opening up and getting that nice cyclical action and really pushing, getting that lightness, that top speed mechanics. But the single biggest thing is continuing to try to run fast until you're past the gate. It's amazing how many people it's like they see a dot on the finish line and like I've just got to touch the dot, and they slow down. I reckon 3 meters early
because whenever you're training or exercise or doing anything, you tend to follow your eyes. So the weights follow your eyes. So if, like the classic, which is often overdone, is that look up when you're squatting and your body will follow your eyes, which to a degree works. So you definitely don't want to look down, but maybe looking up at the roof's a little extreme for your poor old neck.
Some people I've worked with in the past would coach that you had to stare at the cornice in the gym, as in that. And I was like, no, probably a little more level than the
Depends
cornice.
how far away the cornice is for your trigonometry. But the basic concept is that we follow our eyes. So when we see the gate, we're like, I'm at the gate. I can slow down now. But if you can still see the gate, that means you're not through it yet.
Yeah.
So the clock is still running on your sprint.
Yeah.
And when we
push through.
When we're talking about a test where a good time is 3 seconds and a bad time is 3.2 seconds.
Yeah, it's not a big distinction.
Now to now. Now to now. That's it. Like, that's all you've got. And so literally one or two more powerful and intent-based steps is the difference between sub 2 and not sub 2.
So, powering through the finish is super important.
So I would recommend every athlete runs a 22-meter sprint or a 23-meter sprint on their 20-meter sprint test.
Yeah, that's a game changer right there. Like it really makes a huge difference. So that's actually a pretty straightforward one. I don't think there's much more to it. Everything else is around the preparation you've done.
And your running technique.
Staying relaxed, I suppose.
Being strong, powerful, staying relaxed and having good technique, which is all down to your training that you did in the months leading up to your testing event. It's too late on the day.
Yeah. Moving on, agility testing. So we did 5-10-5.
5-10-5, NBA Pro Agility, Illinois Agility Test, whichever you like.
And we like it because you get to see their ability to turn off both sides if you do both directions. And it's not, and I get that it's not technically true agility, because true agility is reaction to an unplanned external stimulus, but you can't test true agility. So really, it's change of direction.
Because the problem with testing true agility, for a little sidebar here, is if it is true agility, every time you do it, the stimulus is slightly different, it's a slightly different pace, and you're doing a different reaction to it each time. So therefore, how can you standardize those things and track progress?
Because, validity and reliability are two of the most important cornerstones of good science. And in the pursuit of validity, you actually, of chasing validity right to the nth degree, you actually rob yourself of that
repeatability
and validity and reliability, whichever you want to call it. So the reason we like the 5-10-5 is that it's pretty repeatable. Everyone's going to do it pretty well, and at the end of the day, you're going to get a sense of who's better at changing direction, who's got better skill at that, and who has better physiological traits that can enable them to rapidly create space laterally.
What we're seeing is that stronger athletes,
I love that,
this is the test that stronger athletes really, really get rewarded. Yeah. There's a decent correlation with vertical leap and speed.
To be crystal clear, stronger athletes people with higher relative strength. So absolute strength is not going to. So if you can lift the house, if you can lift 300 but you weigh 100.
Well, no, that's triple body weight. That's still pretty good. But if you can lift a house but weigh a house,
that's
not so good.
This is almost as bad a stuff up as when you did the placebo analogy with the growing.
Yeah, but can I just say I saved a metaphor? So,
That's terrible.
If you can lift a house but you weigh, I got this. If you can lift a house but you weigh a house, that's not as important as if you only weigh half a house but can lift that same house.
Yeah.
So it's strength relative to the size of your body, because when you move in agility, particularly, you have to accelerate and decelerate your own body multiple times. So when you do 5-10-5, you have to go 1, 2, 3 change of directions, which means, unlike with a sprint where it's one change of direction from 0 to forwards, those 3 change of directions, they all accumulate together and they add up to your agility potential.
So zone 1, be strong. The next thing I'd say is set up your turn well. So come into it knowing what you're doing, and sometimes I would see people that kind of weren't leaning into the turn, so they'd hit the line and they'd be too upright.
Very tall and like leaning over themselves out of the sprint.
Sort of almost falling out of it. So set up your turn, lean into it. And then again, the same rule of powering through that last one, because they would power through across one, power across, and then they'd kind of stop just short of coming back again.
Yeah, they're like, I've done 2 turns, that'll do. It's like, no, you've done 2 turns. You've got 5 more meters of sprinting to go.
Just push through that.
You got to stop the clock as quick as you can.
Push through that finish line. Yeah.
The other one I'd add as well is you want to get as much foot on the ground, as much shoe surface area on the ground on your cuts as well. Often athletes will kind of lunge out with like an angled foot.
Oh, they'll reach with their foot,
and they'll end up catching if you're picturing a shoe, catch the inside edge only, not the entire flat surface of the shoe, which means they've got less grip, whether it be cleats or basketball shoes or netball shoes, whatever is on the surface, so they don't get as much friction, so they can't change, and they often slide past the line. So come in with some short, choppy steps, get all of your foot planted on the line, and then bounce out of that corner.
Yeah, nice. Okay, I think that's it for that test. We could go on, there's a million different tests, but I think that'll do for that.
Yeah. Think with agility, people often think of lots of chaos and bells and whistles and lights and lots of movement, lots of busyness. That's quickness. That's not agility. So foot speed is definitely a part of agility, but good agility is actually seamless. The best agility, it's like they're like a blur. You barely see them. It's like, oof, and they're done. Not all over the place and flailing around. So to look for whatever agility test you do with your sport and your situation, look for efficiencies. Look for where you can move less and cover and do it with less steps or less reaches or whatever.
I loved watching the agility. Some of the athletes just, you're like, whoa, you are so fast on that stuff. It's cool. Let's talk vertical.
Vertical, yeah.
So there's a cheat on vertical that we're not going to mention at all. So
what cheat? I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly, and we definitely don't have our guys do that. I think
it's the first thing we coach out of it.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning. The reason I bring it up is because in my experience, American numbers can be a bit inflated because I think a little bit of the cheating goes on a little bit more there. So often I had someone come in and they made a comment about our numbers here. And they said, oh, your vertical numbers are a bit low. I'm like, no, our vertical numbers are a bit true. Because we're really, really particular about making sure that they're done accurately and it's actually done properly. But
on that as well, vertical, the numbers you see is very dependent on the method used. So when you see someone jump on a jump mat or a force plate or with a vertec or slapping some chalk on the wall, they will all give you very different numbers, or with their hands on the hips, they'll all give you very different numbers of what the vertical leap is. So you really have to make sure you're comparing apples with apples when you're doing this sort of comparison of a vertical. Oh, if you got a 40-inch, it's like, yeah, with a running start and they didn't do this and they did all these other things to get that 40-inch vertical.
And it's not to say that, like, to be crystal clear, there are also amazing athletes in America posting huge numbers. So they're often those guys are going to be world leaders at these numbers.
Without a doubt.
It's just that depending on how strict you are on measuring the reach, that's going to have implications for what the jump is. But I think the most important thing for the vertical, assuming we're doing just a standing vertical, I think
standing counter movement jump with arm swing.
The most important error to avoid is where people go too slow and too low. They really want to get they really want to get that max effort, and they just drop way deeper than they would normally when they're jumping. And it's like, if I just put more effort in, but sometimes it's just that light kind of bounciness that's actually going to dictate whether you have a good jump.
Yeah, and the going slow on the way down really kills your ability to wind up the spring of your legs. So you can't load, because when you do a standing counter movement jump, you don't really have much chance for a plyometric effect. Because like with a gather or run up, you can create momentum into that last step.
And load that spring.
You can load the spring more aggressively with more eccentric load, which with a standing jump, the best way to do that is to swing your arms down and drop yourself into a moderate attack position as quickly and aggressively as you can to load your glutes and your hamstrings and quads and calves to spring yourself back up from there.
I try and explain to people, it's like you want to imagine that you're throwing like a bouncy ball into the ground. Like the harder you throw that ball into the ground,
The higher it'll go. Exactly.
Yeah, and so I think it's doing that. So it's avoiding. It's don't try too hard. Don't try and force the jumping. Try and to make it truly explosive.
Yeah. Nice.
And the big one there also is just make sure that you stick your landing. Make sure it's a good landing, as always. We've had a couple of people nearly land on the vertec over the years.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that.
And avoid doing what I did one time, which was I jumped up and ran my hand straight into the bit of the vertec that doesn't move.
Oh, the part that's not a ticker.
That really hurts.
Yeah.
Don't
the other thing as well, like landing's great, but arm swing. If you're not swinging your arms up and down and really stretching for that reach, especially on the jump, you'll penalise yourself a lot there by being too sort of timid, I suppose, with your jump is the biggest change there. Going from timidness to aggressiveness.
Get that swing out of your arms. Depending on who you talk to, up to 30% arm action can contribute up to 30% to your vertical.
Yeah, massive.
It's pretty huge. Any other major tests? We've got a few others, but I reckon they're the big ones, aren't they? So
fitness, yo-yo, time trial, stuff like that, speed, agility, vertical, strength tests. It's just the stronger you are, the better you'll do. Get in the gym, get to work, and accumulate that strength over time. Anthropometry, stand up straight. Do your foam rollings, look after your thoracic. Not much there, unfortunately.
What about the med ball toss? That's one of our favourites. So we love the med ball toss because there are problems with policing the push-ups in terms of having apples versus apples.
Yeah, and there's a problem with other gym lifts as well because people are better suited for bench press and it's a slower test and it can be a bit dangerous and time-consuming, things like that. Whereas the med ball test is just an upper body expression of power. Yeah.
I've not done much of it. coached way more of it. Any particular, and you've seen some people throw out some amazing numbers.
Yeah.
Anything in particular you've noticed?
Same as the vertical leap. It's about winding up. You start with the ball overhead, you bring it down to your chest, so you do that aggressively, sit back in your hips, and then explode out. Just the faster the better. More intent. It's just like the vertical leap. You just got to really like wind your body up like a spring and then explode out. And throw with two hands, not one.
Yes.
Because there's a bit of skill to it in terms of it's a throw. But interestingly, you think, that's just going to suit basketballers, netballers. Actually, it doesn't. It just suits people who are good at using both hands to create force.
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a skill. So if you haven't tried it, get a med ball and start practicing a two-hand chest pass.
Just before we wrap up, you've just reminded me of one of the most interesting things I've noticed out of our combine results, which is just how well our female swimmers have done on vertical.
Really?
Quite well represented.
I haven't looked at the scores yet.
Yeah, and it's just that thing of we tell them, we coach. When we're coaching a swimmer, it's very important that you work on your power, because a big part of success in the pool is actually how good you are on the blocks and with the wall, how good you are at pushing off. Turns, and they're good listeners and good workers, and so quite a few of them have done really well with their vertical, which you wouldn't necessarily expect. But it's just that thing of if your body's strong and you express that well, you're going to go all right.
That's cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So, show notes. We'll link back to the old central governor one.
I'll find that. I'm going to have to do some digging for that one. Then we'll have the holiday plan link so that you can sign up for that.
Yep.
We'll have the running technique resource that you can also sign up for online, which is on the same website. You'll need to be logged in to access the second one. So if you get one and then you get the other one, you'll need to be logged into the website. We're working on that, sorry. That's something in progress. I think that's kind of it.
And maybe a link to the app as always, because if you're trying to prepare, the reality is that hacking the test is not nearly as important as putting in the work in order to be able to exhibit the figures you've built.
This is the last 2% we've been talking about today.
The icing on the cake. Yeah. Cool. All right, and thanks again to everyone for listening. It still blows me away that so many people get such lovely feedback and people listen to it. You guys have a wonderful holiday break, and we will see you sometime in Jan.
Yeah,
when we're both
Core Advantage podcast will be taking a couple of weeks off, so we'll be off until probably late Jan. To be honest, by the time our schedules align to get back in the studio together, because you're away for 20 days, lucky bugger, and then I've got some commitments out of the city and also my own holidays. So probably not till late Jan. So you got a month to catch up on any episodes you might have missed.
Sounds good. All right, have a great break, guys, and we'll see you next year. And before you go, hear from some of our alumni about our career transforming course, the online mentorship. Learn more about how you can join at our website.
I learnt the theory stuff at uni, but I didn't know how to apply it. And coming to Core Advantage was how I bridged that gap. So I knew the stuff, but I didn't know how to do the stuff.
It was something that I needed to do personally for my own development, and it's allowed me to work in elite sport for now 5 years. So it was a massive help.
I think mentorship is really important, and being able to ask questions all the time, and the Core Advantage course allows that, because there is a big team of people that you can ask questions.
I get to train professional athletes every week, work really closely with professional athletes, which is awesome. A lot of the skills that I'm applying I learned through the program at Core Advantage.
It's not just something that you read and then think about and then go, how does that tie into everything? It's something that practical that you can turn around and go, this is exactly how I'm going to apply it. And the concepts that you learn help you as a coach, as a professional, as a person. Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely go and do it.
To sign up for the online mentorship, head to coreadvantage.training/mentorship.